To overview, we will briefly cover the topic of project management and then cover the lessons learned. Out of the many topics covered, we were able to narrow our lessons for the class and our individual projects to 3 items, and to include an example from Kem's project that covers the communication and then adds the lessons learned from cost. The other items to cover will be planning and understanding the why of projects.
Before I took this class, I had a really vague understanding what project management really was. I had always thought project coordinators were synonymous with project managers. I quickly realized project coordinators and project managers do very similar tasks, but the managers are the ones who direct the coordinators, and that project coordinators do typically become project managers later on. Both also make decisions that can affect a project, but a coordinator must still verify with the project manager to ensure the project still moves forward to meet goals and objectives. At the end of the day, though, a project manager is who is actually in charge of a project and is tasked to see it through until its end. I also never thought of project management as being a process. There are many steps project managers have to take to really be able to manage the project and have a real chance of having a successful project, with some very important steps being before the project ever actually starts, as well as having an outlook to try and plan for things that may typically happen or what they think might happen based on historic or internal information. Project managers will spend most of their time in planning.
Before taking project management, I knew it was important to plan out a project, but I never thought about planning it out like we did in our individual projects. During one of our TED Talks, we were told that 80% of a project is planning. I couldn't believe it. At the time, it seemed like so much time would be wasted planning. As the course moved on, I learned I was very wrong. Planning is by far the most important aspect of project management, and without it, your project will fail. Another factor that became a big takeaway for me was the business case and the project charter. I had no idea that a project manager would need to create a business case and get it approved from sponsors and a stakeholder. The same thing goes for the project charter. I had no idea how much weight they carry for a project within an organization. The goal of both documents is to generally talk about the project and its goals. Some of the aspects they include are objectives, problem statement, risks, and the scope of the project. Before I started my project, I had no idea how much importance are placed on these 3 items. When it came to completing my individual project, I knew there would be a good amount of planning, but I never thought I would have to create a human resource plan, a work breakdown structure, and a risk management plan. During my project, I struggled with these 3 aspects the most. I struggled because my project was to oversee a building remodel for my organization. I have no history or experience with construction, so these tasks were tough at times. When it came to the human resource plan, it was tough to determine the amount of manpower and resources I would need for all of the work that would be completed during my project. The work breakdown structure was also a struggle because I had to break down all of my tasks and give them timelines. Finally, the risk management plan proved a little difficult as well due to my lack of experience. Overall, I learned the importance of all 3 and how they set the foundation for a project. All 3 of them play an important factor for the success of a project.
It was a bit odd that there was a section in this class to learn about the need to plan out communications. After learning about communication plans, it made sense why it is important. Learning that communication plans should be a two-way street is something I'm used to hearing, but quickly saw it is not a standard approach. I also learned that unfortunately there's a good majority of project managers that will only tell people to do things, but what makes a project manager have great communication is being proactive in communicating solutions to problems before there needs to be added in a report, while also being able to ask what needs to be done. This type of project management, with a good communication plan, helps to keep a project on schedule, aligns resources, and would help maintain the budget goals.
It's important to know why you are doing something, and it's also a safety check to make sure it really needs to be done. It's a waste of resources to just do something because you can or because you want to. The need goes beyond the project itself. It goes in to the need to know what will be required to move forward. Knowing the why is a great way to prove the need and also explain all the working parts. Some of the simplest projects still have all the planning required to reach deadlines and ensure that you are not forgetting things that will be required to hit the needs of the organization. If you have the knowledge, you can reach even the most difficult stakeholder and potentially save your business resources while delivering the best product possible. Finally, sharing the why will help to use your human resources to their fullest by allowing them to speak up and share what they know about topics or processes. This project was to restore the taxiway alpha and the adjacent parking apron to like-new condition through full-depth concrete replacement. This will reduce the yearly maintenance costs, slow deterioration rates, maintain availability for aircraft operations, and allow the airfield to support strategic contingencies. This project was a fixed price contract and will include the following as described in the detailed specifications and drawings. Full depth replacement of pavement and subgrade on taxiway alpha. Full depth replacement of pavement and subgrade on aircraft parking apron. Design and install new lighting and all application system. Paint airfield marking consistent with current marking requirements. Communication issue. There was one critical communication breakdown between the paving section and the supply section and was overlooked by the project manager. A small redesign that had to be accomplished that was in the scope, calling for the need of 2 additional concrete slabs to be poured. The additional supply items required for this change in the form of 24 concrete dowels were never requested and were not on supply when the team was ready to pour the section of the project. This oversight caused the project to be placed on hold for 1 week while the additional supplies were sourced from Hawaii and made their way on the island. This delay cost us $19,784.27, logistical and supply expenditures. This was an avoidable oversight that ultimately the project manager should have caught and communicated through our pre-scheduled meetings and telecons. The recommendation for all future projects is that when changes are approved, regardless of the size, a requirement review is conducted and signed off by all functions, ensuring that any after effects of the change are identified and addressed. Cost projections. During the bidding process, we anticipated all costs associated with the project. However, another costly oversight that was not accounted for was the airfield service and overtime fees associated with the use of Wake Island. To mitigate the limited travel opportunities to Wake Island, we retained the service of private air carrier to assist us with travel to and from Wake Island for project surveillance and oversight. The financial advisor and the project manager were not aware of the $4,192 aircraft service fee, as well as the $850 an hour minimum 2-hour overtime fee. The impact was during this lifespan of the project. The project team had 10 mandatory site visits with quality control team. Due to the unanticipated fees, these trips cost an additional $45,320. The recommendation is this oversight could have been foreseen and mitigated when we accomplished our initial site visit. The recommendation for future projects is to add an additional item to bidding checklist that specifically requires the project manager to inquire if there are any additional fees not otherwise discussed. Project timeline. While there were few setbacks, the project team did well to adhere to the project timeline, so much that we were able to mitigate the 1-week standstill and keep the project on schedule and complete 37 days ahead of schedule. This project was completed 37 days ahead of schedule, allowing us to turn the project back over to the customer, allowing them to resume aircraft operation, supporting the United States military Trans-Pacific mission. Recommendations: ensure that the project team is available to replicate this achievement on future projects. Safety. This project yields 0 mishaps. There were no injuries to any of the 195 personnel working on the project or any damages to equipment or aircraft. OSHA guidelines were strictly adhered to for the entirety of the project, which resulted in an astounding 100% compliance rate on the 27 occupational and flight safety and inspections conducted. The ability to validate the safety program on this level is outstanding. Historically, we have a handful of safety discrepancies during any project, and to see the improvements to our safety training and surveillance program is commendable. Recommendations: continue to utilize the safety program in its current state and look for ways to continuously improve the program for the benefit of our employees, as they are our #1 asset. In summary, we covered what project management is in order to explain the lessons learned. The lessons learned that were covered were planning, communication, the why, and an example on how lessons learned help future projects on what to look out for.